I want to mention another cover of this song.
Oh, yes.
So if you probably know this song and you probably know the other song and may not even realize it's the same song.
So it's in my brain. Okay.
Can't unhear it.
This is a show about the 500 albums that Rolling Stone says are the best, and we're gonna talk about them ad nauseum. This is a show about the 500 albums that Rolling Stone says are the best, and we're gonna talk about them ad nauseum. This is a show about the 500 albums that Rolling Stone says are the best, and we're gonna talk about them ad nauseum. This is a show about the 500 albums that Rolling Stone says are the best, and we're gonna talk about them ad nauseum.
Welcome back to the Backwards Beats podcast. I am Carl Carter Fansteel.
And I'm Dan Woodard.
Happy to be with you on this wonderful January evening.
That's correct. Although you'll listen to this in May, who knows?
Yeah. But we like for you to know that we've done all of the pre-work. And when you listen back to this, hopefully you will think about all of the good times the new year has brought you thus far.
That's correct. Let's do it.
Really looking forward to talking about this album tonight. We are checking out Heart Like a Wheel by Linda Ronstadt.
That's correct.
Recorded 1974.
Mm-hmm.
This album weighs in at 10 songs and a whopping 31 minutes and 44 seconds.
Yeah, and to set the barometer here, for those keeping track, this is our episode 11, which is album 490.
That's right.
On Rolling Stone magazine's 500, quote-unquote, greatest albums of all time.
I failed that math test just a minute ago, didn't I?
It did, yeah. It was a surprising failure, but fantastic at the same time.
You have to track the first one and then count. I know.
Yeah.
All right, Daniel. So this album is full of all sorts of little surprises, and I want to dive into some of the kind of the making of, the history, and the influence of immediately, because you had to like bite your tongue. You were like about to spill every fun fact in the world.
There are a lot of facts. We've got to keep this episode under 90 minutes for what did you say, 31-minute album?
I would like that. Thanks.
I would too, and I think our listeners would. Yeah. All right, let's do it. Linda Ronstadt. She's a big deal. She was born in 1946 in Tucson, Arizona. Wow. And she grew up surrounded by music. Her father actually sang a lot of Mexican songs, which is interesting, which influenced her style. And then she moved to Los Angeles in the 60s to pursue her career in music. And she was kind of an integral part of the Southern California music community in the early 70s. And I'll hit right into it. Kind of credited. There's a mini documentary that you can watch for forming this little band you might have heard of called the Eagles.
Wow.
Yep.
Those Eagles?
Those Eagles. Yep. I was going to make a Muppet reference, but I won't do that to Sam the Eagle. But yeah, so some of the players include Don Henley, Timothy B. Schmidt, Glenn Frey, and I think Arthur Felder. I never know how to say his last name.
Is he the one that they end up all crapping on in their documentary later on?
Yeah, which actually, for a 4-hour documentary, I watched that whole thing and it didn't feel like 4 hours somehow. But yeah.
That's because the talent level is so high, right?
Yeah.
That's the difference.
I'm sure we'll talk about the Eagles later in this podcast.
Yeah. Where do you go on? Just gut check. The AI bot will find this for us later.
Yep.
In what number range do you think an Eagles album will first fall on the top 500 albums of all time?
First of all, what album do you think would make the list?
Okay. If I could name more than 3 Eagles albums.
Yep.
No, I'm going to get that one wrong. I do think that they will breach first in some capacity, though, in the 400s.
in the
in
400s.
the 450 to in the let's go the 350 to 4 range.
Okay.
I think that they'll be favorable.
I do too. I think they might be higher, but I wouldn't be surprised if their greatest hits album is what makes the list over than.
Okay.
I mean, it could be Hotel California, right? Or The Long Run. Or
I'm
those
having a
albums.
hard time believing it wouldn't, be Hotel California.
Right.
But
But we've already done a compilation album on this podcast.
that's true. We see what Rolling Stones is willing to throw at us.
Yep.
Oh man, what if they end up doing movie soundtracks? What if they end up doing like the Garden State soundtrack? By the way,
not
great,
bad. Yeah.
Great soundtrack.
Yeah.
That would make this job so much harder.
It would be. Compilations for this podcast are a pain in the ass.
Yep, but we're willing to put in the work as always.
Yep.
Labor of love.
Yeah. So anyway, she was a big deal in Southern California music, quote unquote, credited for the formation of the Eagles. And the reason why is she had a lot of these players as her backing band early on and helped introduce them to each other. So she didn't create them, but
She was the call they rallied behind.
Yeah.
For a while.
yeah.
It was like a Joni Mitchell's super band.
Yeah. Her first success was with a band called the Stone Ponies.
Dope band name.
Yeah, it's a great band. That's why I had to mention it. And then essentially, she's really known for her versatility. She's considered, I think, by many people, a country artist, even though when we get into this album, there's country on this album, but this is, in my mind, not a country album.
So I have very limited exposure to her, and I would peg her coming in like on Virgin Ears here. You listen to it like 2 times through. She's a balladeer, right?
Mm-hmm.
And we'll get into more of that, as we look at the track listing in the second half of this cast. But there is kind of a lot of the same profile and approach to song on here, and it's funny. Without you mentioning something you just showed me right before this, I know she has more breadth because once you listen through the album, what's it do? It starts to just play you a ton of her catalog.
Yeah.
And then you start to hear all of the stuff she's done.
Yeah. So she's renowned actually for crossing genres: country, rock, pop, opera, Mexican music.
I was going to say, with that vibrato, those last two certainly don't, shy away.
Yeah. So she's won 11 Grammys, sold over 100 million records.
Was notable mention in the fantastic adaptation and show The Last of Us.
Yes. Wow.
On one of the best episodes, period.
Yeah. 11 Grammys, including a Latin Grammy
Oh, fantastic.
for
Bump over Shakira.
for best ranchero album for her album Canciones de mi Padre, which is a full Spanish album.
Have you given that one lesson?
Yeah, it's good. It's really good. Yeah. She has essentially a children's Grammy with a number of artists for the 1981 album In Harmony, a Sesame Street record.
Oh, fantastic.
Yep. She has a full-on jazz album. Like she crosses the spectrum
A
fantastically.
singer's singer.
Yeah. And Heart Like a Wheel, which came out, I think you already mentioned, 1984, was really her.
74.
What did I say? 84?
Yep.
Oh, her jazz album was 1984. So yeah, that's where my brain was. But yeah, 1974 really was her breakthrough album. She definitely broke a lot of barriers for female rock artists, proving that they could really dominate the charts and sell out arenas, which she did. And, for me personally, even though you'll never catch me pulling on country music, I rarely turn it off. Actually, there's a sweet spot in my heart for it. I grew up with it on a lot in my house, and I grew up in a very rural, part of Western Massachusetts and Vermont. And so this kind of music was just all over the place. I had an uncle who owned horses, so in his barn there's country music. It was country music all over the place.
Sure, and not country in today's term, country music.
Yeah, I'll call it quote unquote like country rock or
Bro
redneck
country.
or redneck country. Yeah,
It's not Morgan Wallen.
No, it wasn't. She did a lot in kind of sadly. I mean, she retired in 2011 due to what they initially thought was Parkinson's, but it was some other sort of degenerative like palsy that she had. But, you know, a remarkable woman.
It sounds like a pretty remarkable career.
Yeah.
And I mean, her catalog would certainly say so as well.
Yeah. In my opinion, you know, listening through here, because like I said, I heard her a lot growing up. Listening to her now, like she is so solid, precise, right, and well supported. Like she's just very versatile, very talented.
When you look back at recordings from this era, you know, primo music, mid 70s, right?
Yep.
It always floors me what gets through the gate, right? Like, and so what I mean is you have really honest performance because the tech just isn't quite there where it is easy or worth it to retake, sub, right?
Yep.
I mean, we've all heard tales of some of the freak artists out there, like, you know, how Bohemian Rhapsody almost never made it through because Freddie Mercury kept wanting to edit the tape and put more layers on, and it was so fragile, we could have lost that piece as it's known, right?
Right.
When you're doing these country ballads, you know, the performance you're hearing is the performance that went on in that studio. The digital punch-in was not a thing.
No.
And we rely so heavily on it today. It's incredible. I mean, I was recording a country song last week for my friend Marie.
Right.
And I think I punched this one guitar part. You can look at the take list, and it'll say, you know, the first number underscoring the track you're on inside of Pro Tools. I mean, I was ashamed at the double-digit number sitting over this acoustic guitar part when I looked at the end of it. And so you will often hear, in my experience, in, you know, these later or earlier recordings, flubs, little ones that are so acceptable and so they do them with finesse almost, these little mistakes or these little pitchy things, and you forgive it because of the genre, right? Not her.
No.
She is dead on everything, every breath, every syllable, the shape like of the note. It's all fantastic. It's such an easy listen in that, right?
Yeah, she's impeccable.
And pretty freaking good production to boot.
Yeah, it was interesting. I'm curious your take on this because when we talked on, I believe it was episode number 2, we talked, which was Ask Rufus.
Shaka Khan, yeah.
Yep. And we talked about the drum production on that one in the cardboard box drums. Now, some of the toms on this are dipping there, but there's actually pitch to them. But the drums actually sound overall pretty good on this album.
The first tom you hear in the entire album is highly debatable of whether or not that should sound that way.
Yeah, but there's actually at least a pitch.
Yeah, exactly. And I'm never knocking like sound of a time, unless of course you're Phil Spector.
Which unfortunately we'll talk about like 25 times in this podcast.
Yeah, but you know, 70s boxy open back drum is a 70s boxy open back drum.
Yep.
Once again, that's what they had at the time. What really stands out to me is cleanliness of production. And I think that this is a great, when you have this singer and you've really made them the centerpiece. And I think if you, to go back to that Shaka Khan episode, you know, where she was kind of getting, like Rufus did not yield to her per se. And the producers certainly didn't. She had to kind of like fight her way to the front, right? Linda's the centerpiece of this thing. They have made her like this jewel and given this space to her. Mind you, half of that is the tempo of a lot of these ballads.
Yeah.
There's just a lot of space naturally. And then if you look at kind of the country trope of the time, long ambiance by pedal steel and lap steel players, light picking guitar, long held bass notes, nothing flashy on a drum kit. It's conducive to the singer.
Yeah.
I guess what I'm saying is all of the pieces here work, and I think make it overall a very enjoyable listen. I'm not going to say it's impeccable through to through the production.
Right.
There's a couple songs I could probably point a finger at, but I mean, it starts off strong for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. And this album, because of her reputation and her connections and her abilities, is riddled with with backing band members and artists throughout this entire album. I won't sort of spoil some of the people who.
Oh, but we will talk about them.
But we'll talk about a handful of them. One other thing to note about Linda Ronstadt is she's not a songwriter. This is an album of covers.
Yeah.
And most of her catalog are covers. I'm not sure I found anything she actually wrote. And one thing that's interesting about that is sometimes people judge people for that. But if you think about the history of like modern music, or even going back to classical music, you have plenty of orchestras where the conductor did not write the music.
No, the best performer and songwriter are allowed to be detached.
Yes. It's only more recently. I mean, she's in that era. I mean, when the Beatles started, they didn't know how to write songs. They were a cover band, 100%.
At a strip club playing blues songs.
Right. And they're like, well, how do we differentiate ourselves? Because all the other bands are playing the same covers. I guess now, of course, they're the Beatles. Like, I guess we'll write some songs.
So that's the funny fact. I mean, it doesn't miff me at all.
Yeah.
That she didn't write these. I don't care.
No.
Because her performance is so flawless. I also had no idea that was the key here.
Mm-hmm.
When you went, that's an entire album of covers.
Yeah.
It took me until song 7 out of 10 to figure that out.
Yeah.
And even then I was like, oh, cool. She did a cover, I think. And then I jumped into Wikipedia and learned, oh, she did a bunch of them.
Yeah. Well, I mean, hopefully by song 6.
Yeah. 6, I suppose. Yeah. That makes sense.
Yeah. We won't spoil it yet, but
overall, I think that when you look at this album as its own piece of art, it's so listenable. And it goes by in a flash, you know?
Yeah. And we've talked several times about the composition of an album. And even though this is an album of covers, I'll say for the most part, really well put together.
All right, let's get into the nitty gritty after a quick break.
Dude, check this out. I had it all planned out. I'm gonna meet with my girlfriend at this neutral location, a coffee shop, so she wouldn't make a scene or some shit. I'd start with some gentle nonsense about how we were better as friends. She'd cry, I'd feel like garbage for a week, and then finally, freedom. But check this out. Right before I could do it, she hits me with this. I have to tell you something. I have cancer. Dude, I swear to God. First thing I went through my mind was, I can't break up with this chick now, can I? I'll look like a total chode. Which is a problem because, look, she's nice and all, but her voice sounds like a cartoon character got punched in the throat. It's like she's constantly auditioning for a role as some overly excited chipmunk or some shit. Every time she says my name, my spine tries to escape my body. So now I'm stuck with this chick. I'm in too deep to leave. That's why I should have called the proxy.
The proxy team of specialists will handle your breakup from start to finish, no matter how awful the circumstances. We craft the perfect exit strategy, soften the blow, and make sure you walk away guilt-free. Need a bulletproof excuse? We have a database. Want us to break the news for you? Consider it done. Looking for an escape that doesn't make you a monster? We can't promise miracles, but we can get you close. The proxy, because some breakups are just above your pay grade.
I said I was sorry, what?
No one breaks up with me!
All right, let's get into the track list here. I am a big fan of when you open your album on a banger.
This album does that.
And she does just that. It was really the only song I knew coming into this, to be honest with you.
Okay.
And it's You're No Good.
Mm-hmm.
On Spotify, it's sitting at a mere 66 million listens. We know it's bigger than that.
Yep.
But this song absolutely comes in with really cool instrumentation of the time.
Mm-hmm.
It has our favorite Tom hit we were talking about within 3 seconds. It sounds like, what did you say? One of the lugs on a drum set's just missing.
Yeah, normally when you tune a drum, you try to get there's a bunch of lugs or screws that hold the head on, or bolts, I guess you would say. And you try to make the tension on each one of them to be the same, so you have a nice consistent tone. And here it feels like there's just something missing.
There's one of them that you could like screw with your fingers.
Yep. Yeah, I'm surprised you can't hear the rattle. Yep.
I think the keyboard is a Wurlitzer. It could be a Rhodes, but there's a really kind of cool
There's some
vibe.
sort of suitcase type keyboard.
They're
Yeah.
coming on these minor chord. It's edgy and moody. It's got a nice dark groove to it. This song is unmistakably like, every lady's dream karaoke song.
Yeah. It's a great song. I think what I love about it is you hear like her ire.
You do indeed. It hits me with the same kind of stress that like that Carly Simon. You're so vain. You're no good. You're so vain.
Yeah.
I'm sure Carole King has one of this vein I could plug her into, but that's the energy I'm getting immediately.
Yeah. Well, she'll say it again.
Yeah.
Right.
Oh, she'll say it several times over. This song's really cool too because they kind of get to the point quick. Mm-hmm. It hits from like her in the verse singing, and it just kind of builds through a really funky pre-chorus into that chorus really quickly.
Right.
And then,
I mean, think about the lyrics too. Like, feeling better now that we're through, feeling better now that I'm over you. Like, done. I've learned my lesson. Like that.
You're no good. You're no good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
What's really cool about this tune is then they do some unconventional things in the way of pop music.
Okay. What do you mean?
There's some instrument features that go on inside of it. There's kind of an elongated interlude, which is super fun as well. So you get this full mood ride. I guess what you expect when you hear a pop song like this, and if you're going to give me a 30-second snippet, we're going to go verse, chorus, bridge, double chorus out, maybe.
Yep.
Not here.
Right. No.
So song form is very interesting.
It is. And I'm glad you mentioned that interlude. Because I want to mention another cover of this song.
Oh, yes.
So if you probably know this song and you probably know the other song and may not even realize it's the same song.
Okay.
Because Van Halen, this is the opening song on Van Halen 2. And they cover it. And I have some feelings about this because I grew up with this song in the background of my house.
Ronstadt's
version. And then I also grew up with Van Halen's version, thinking that was awesome too.
Yeah.
But my observation is, objectively, Van Halen is a heavier band.
Sure.
This song gives me way more intense feels. I'm way more afraid of little Linda Ronstadt than of David Lee Roth.
This is a more complex version of the song than what Van Halen did. Because Van Halen, sure, you get Eddie just noodling. Mm-hmm. But what's the bass player of Van Halen again?
Michael Anthony.
He's hitting one note, right? The arrangement here is allowing for a lot more space. I think that this song is more musically stunning than the Van Halen version, though the Van Halen version does some really cool things.
Yeah.
I mean,
I like that version.
Massive drum fill, a lot of panning stuff, of course, a shredding solo. This to me is more musically sound, though.
But what's interesting, two things interesting to me. So in the Van Halen version, during the chorus, the you're no good, right? And you get some David Lee Roth, like whistle tone stuff.
Oh, sick harmony. Yeah.
Yeah. And Van Halen's harmonies are very polished and potentially like fancier.
It's like a wall.
Yeah. Than on this. But like I said, Linda Ronstadt in the chorus, she's like, and I'm going to say it again. You're no good. You're no good. And that is missed. Van Halen misses out on the you're no good. And I'm going to say it again. And that is the anger. That is the right. And the anger of you're no good is way stronger, in my opinion, in Linda Ronstadt's version than the objectively heavier, should be angrier in spirit Van Halen version.
Yeah, hands down.
Yeah.
I think you nailed that.
And you mentioned the interlude in Linda Ronstadt's version. Van Halen's interlude is a completely different interlude.
Yep.
And it mellows down. Like eventually they nail that mellow interlude in Panama. Right.
Which, yeah.
Right. They
iconic.
Right. They nail that mellow interlude. It's like their first crack in it, but her first crack at the interlude crushes it. So I would love
it's title track or opening track on the song.
Yeah.
Or on the album.
We already talked about 66 million. Yeah. Yeah. We talked about that.
And that's no mistake.
Yeah.
The song's absolutely wonderful.
Yeah, and I encourage you guys, listen to both versions. They're both good. Like, I'm not crapping on Van Halen's version at all, but
I think we'll generate it in our liner notes, right?
yeah.
Cool. Moving on to song number 2, It Doesn't Matter Anymore.
Okay. So, I have a couple feelings on this one.
Okay, I have a feeling on this one. Go ahead.
Well, you go first, actually.
This is going to sound premature because I never do it this early. This is my favorite song on the album.
Okay. So, this is my first note. This is a beautiful song, initially recorded by Buddy Holly.
Awesome.
Misplaced.
Agreed. It's awfully early, and it's right after You're No Good. It kind of lives in the shadow of it.
Yeah.
But it's my favorite song objectively on the album.
Yeah. It's fantastic. If you look at it, like, this is like song form wise, very basic. There's no chorus. It's verse with refrain.
Mm-hmm.
And then a very interesting, in my opinion, B section where it's just like a 1 to 5 bass line.
That's what sold me is this performance across the board.
Yeah.
Floors me.
Yep.
It's so mature,
Yeah.
right? And it's not like they were like showing her. I mean, they were showing off some pretty good chops in You're No Good.
Mm-hmm.
And so you come off of that right into this tune and I'm at peace.
Right.
Maybe that's what it is. Maybe it's just response to the emotion of the first one.
Yeah. I mean, my only complaint, like I said, is the placement, because I want a little more energy on song 2 than I get here. This brings you right down. But this, to me, there's a big pedal steel guitar feature here by Sneaky Pete Clino, he's actually made it into the Pedal Steel Hall of Fame.
I imagine that's a massive list.
Yeah, and so he has actually played with the Eagles, Joan Baez, Leonard Cohen, Joe Cocker, Joni Mitchell, the Everly Brothers, just a handful of people. That's just the short list.
Can you imagine keeping company like that?
Right. So the unknown people who are playing behind you are all legends.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This just it gives me such like Wrecking Crew vibes.
Yeah.
Look, it's a simple and gorgeous song.
Mm-hmm.
There's not much more you can say about it, and it's criminally underserved. Actually, no, I did. Let me restate this. You're No Good is a massive hit. We all know that, right? So we moved down from 66 million plays to just shy of 5 million plays, which feels like a gut punch. But honestly, it's the 4th most listened to song on Spotify on this album.
Yep.
So the respect is there.
Yeah. Like I said, it was pre-recorded by Buddy Holly, written by Paul Anka.
Oh, Paul Anka.
Paul Anka, yeah.
Nice. Yeah. Man, the name, our name dropping of artists category on this is going to be obscene.
Yeah, that's one of the things I'm excited about. So if you haven't paid attention when you've listened to this podcast, to our show notes, we are literally, every single music reference that we mention, we're trying to get included in there with the link to where to hear it, like on Spotify right now. Eventually we'll do something fancier, but yeah, so this
you want to check out the Paul Anka stuff.
Yeah, Paul Anka stuff. Paul Anka will be in our show notes, as will Buddy Holly, apparently.
And every other artist you just rambled off.
Yeah.
So many Eagles references.
Yep.
Cool. Anything else on that?
Now let's move on.
Faithless Love, track 3.
Okay. To me, the banjo in this is beautiful, which is a weird sentence to say.
Yes. I think coming out of your mouth, sure.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's not that you don't have you actually have a massive breadth of music you appreciate.
Yeah.
I've never known you, and our relationship is very musically based.
Mm-hmm.
I've never known you to be a fan of the more Appalachia and country influence, music as we call it here.
No, this music was in the ether for me.
Yeah.
For sure. I mean, certainly I love banjo music, Bela Fleck.
Oh yeah.
Right. That would,
Seen
of
him
course,
a few
would
times.
fit. That would fit in there. But I think what's nice about this is it's so subdued, featured, but subdued.
Yep.
And I'm going to make a reference here, even though it's not the same at all, but one of my favorite openings of a song is the banjo intro to Rainbow Connection.
Oh, wow.
And it's a
Okay.
beautiful song.
I'm like listening to it in my head.
Yeah. So Muppet reference.
Yeah,
Here we go.
indeed.
Yeah.
Okay. Man, that list is going to be great. Yeah. There's a notable fall off in the production in comparison to the first two tunes here,
Yep.
and in energy.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not saying that like it doesn't matter anymore is like a kick down the door energy song. It most certainly isn't. I guess coming in, we objectively look at the songs, but we're also looking at how the album flows, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I think something here for me, you kind of settled into a mood at this point.
Yeah.
And you're like, all right, cool. We've gone into like this ballady country grasp yet again. And there's a little bit of a volume fall off and there's a little bit of a clarity fall off for me. And that's distracting for me. But it certainly is no ill point against a pretty beautiful song.
It's a beautiful song. And this is one of those songs, the song from a time perspective, it's a straight 4. But what's interesting, if you listen to the bass, it almost feels like it's dancing around time, but it's just the fact that it's emphasizing some notes on what's normally known as the weak beats.
Yep. Classic progression.
Yeah.
C.
Yep.
A minor, F, G. Like,
yeah. Or some version of that. Yeah.
It's literally easy to digest. That's what this song is for me.
Mm-hmm.
Her vibrato is out of control. Or it's in control, but my God, she has so much vibrato.
Yeah, and actually, I couldn't figure this out. I love when the vocal harmonies come in here. There's a male singer, and unfortunately, in the liner notes for this, I couldn't find out who the male singer is who starts harmonizing with her. But
Paul
it's,
Anka. No.
It's probably not Paul Anka. It could be, but yeah, it's beautiful. And we mentioned the banjo. And it's played by Herb Penderson, who's also played with a million people, including John Fogerty.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay. We're starting to take a little veer off.
Yeah.
But if you look at, I think what's notable here, folks. So you look at Fogerty and his team. You look at Glenn Frey and his team, right? Mm-hmm. You look at all of this rock and roll of the period,
mm-hmm.
and look how influential it was. I mean, take the Eagles, take CCR, she falls in line with all of this.
She does.
In fact, she's a trendsetter for it. One could make the argument. Really cool stuff.
Yeah.
All right. Tune 4, Dark End of the Street.
It is dark.
Yeah. Opens on that descending kind of line. You and I had different ideas about what song it reminded us
Yeah,
of.
so it's a song that's in the key of G, or not that key of G.
The line that they have here is it goes C, B, A minor.
Right, so numerically it's 1, 5 over 7,
6 minor 6, yeah.
Right. So it's just a descending thing. I hear this, and when you said what you said, I agree with you completely. So I hear this song, but I first heard, and probably because tempo-wise it's similar, I heard Running on Faith by Eric Clapton.
See, I heard Freebird.
Yeah, 100%.
But that's if you look at both of the songs, that's what it is. I mean, not for more than a few seconds.
Yeah, it deviates, and to me, this is a very melancholy song.
Sure.
And it's either, when I hear the lyrics, it's either about forbidden love or an illicit affair. But when I I actually did a little research on this, so I don't know these individuals very well, but Dan Penn and Chris Moman are the artists who wrote this song. They're a songwriting group. And the story I saw on this specific song
Oh, I like this.
is that they were playing cards with a Florida DJ and cheating
Okay.
when they're playing it. And they decided to write a song while they're on their break playing cards. And they said, we're going to write the best song about cheating.
Oh.
So in their mind, this is an illicit affair, but you could go either way if you look at how it works. So I thought there was an interesting,
Clever.
interesting thing there.
I love those little tidbits.
Yeah. A couple other tidbits here is this actually has a guitar solo, which is kind of nice. I think it actually brings you into the angst of that.
I was just reading my show notes and I had the same thought. It's refreshing.
Mm-hmm.
It's up until this point, you don't quite recognize how much of the the sonic weight she's been carrying on her vocals the whole time.
Yeah.
And so it's nice breath. And it's a good solo.
Yeah. Also, some killer background vocals on this,
Big time.
featuring Sissy Houston.
Okay.
You know who she is?
Nope.
You've heard of Whitney Houston,
Shut up.
her progenitor. Yes, her mother.
Oh my gosh. Well,
Yeah.
at Sissy, I would have assumed her sister, but that'd be a little too young, right?
Yeah, be a little too young. Yeah. They're like name drop,
My God.
all day long in this.
Whitney
thing.
Houston's mom going for it.
Yeah.
You love to see the lineage.
Yep. And and her mom sang on Whitney's albums too.
Yeah, oh my gosh.
Yeah.
We'll see that album, I'm sure. I'm sure down the road.
Yep. I bet you.
Anything else on Dark End of the Street?
Without going to 2 hours, no.
No, but very good.
Yep.
To the title track of the song, Heart Like a Wheel.
You said you have feelings about this song.
I do. This is my least favorite song on the album.
Why is that?
I don't like the writing style. It's not my favorite performance of hers. And I don't like the production. It sticks out from everything else that's happened so far. It's piano led.
Mm-hmm.
You know what the genre reminds me of?
I asked you what the genre is. Yeah.
Sounds like modern church music.
Okay, so my notes. Yep, my notes are there's a bit of a Baroque feel to the rhythm of the melody. It feels very formal. I feel like she is standing upright with her hands like palms up in front of under her bosom as she's singing this.
She doesn't feel loose, moody enough. It perplexes me that this was the song that caught the title track. Like, was this just went to the highest bidder? Like, how did that work out?
Yeah. I mean, I don't feel as strongly negative to this as you do because I really like the cello accompaniment in this.
Yes, this is not dire hate, my friends.
Yep.
This is me pointing out a tune that, once again, if you're going to name your album after this tune, I expected it to be a little better.
Yeah.
It's also, once again, instrumentation-wise, it's different than literally everything else on the album. It's the only song of its class. The piano, I'm pretty sure is live acoustically recorded, but it's edging on sounding like it's kissing an 80s piano, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Which is impossible because it's 74.
Yep.
It's brighter. It's an ill-cut puzzle piece to put in this album, IMO.
Fair enough. Yeah, and I shouldn't get into this because Andrew Gold, who plays piano on this.
Sorry, Andrew.
Yeah. His playing is fine.
Oh, no one's performance was bad.
Yeah. But Andrew Gold, you should look him up. He's another multi-instrumentalist who's basically done everything. But what I thought was interesting is he, in the 90s, ended up composing a number of tracks for films, commercials, and TV shows, such as The Final Frontier, which is the theme of the sitcom Mad About You, which...
Wow, that's a throwback.
Right.
I'm trying to remember who the marquee stars are on Mad About You.
Yep. And then some of the older works, experienced newfound popularity, and Thank You for Being a Friend.
Okay.
Which is the theme for
Not All in the Family. Thank You for Being a Friend. Oh, come on.
The Golden Girls.
Golden Girls. I knew it. Sorry.
So the only reason I mentioned him there, but he's the piano player on that. And
see, that doesn't surprise me.
Yep. You
can hear that.
Mm-hmm.
I know I've spent plenty of time pooing on this song. What are your thoughts on this tune?
It stands out to me. I actually don't dislike it, but I agree. I don't know why other than it's a cool name for an album. And
I don't even like the metaphor. Heart's like a wheel if it bends. Like, I was like, what are you talking about, guys?
Yeah. Well, I mean, she didn't write it.
I know no problem there.
Yeah.
And you can't blame someone for writing a song and giving it to her.
Yeah.
It's like giving it to a star quarterback.
Now, what's interesting is, to me, what this reminds me of, in my opinion, a much better song, because it's essentially, well, it's piano and vocal with some string accompaniment, which is the song Lullaby by Billy Joel off the album River of Dreams.
That's a beautiful. I feel like no one listens to that album.
It's a good album.
I made my dad play that on a cassette tape in the car nonstop. And that's a great tune. I thought I'd never hear that anybody ever mentioned that.
One of
Talk
my
about
favorite songs.
albums that will not make it onto the Rolling Stone Top 500.
Yeah.
That one.
Yeah, River of Dreams, a solid album for his last album.
Yep.
And that song Lullaby, like, almost brings me to tears every time I hear it.
Wow, that's a deep cut.
Yeah.
I'm so happy that will be in the liner notes.
Yeah.
All right, let's grab a quick break. We're about halfway through.
Let's do it.
I'm excited to talk about marine vitality. I've been taking marine vitality for years, long before they became a sponsor. And honestly, it has changed my life. This is the only all-in-one supplement that harnesses the raw, unregulated power of the ocean. It's a one-of-a-kind combination of deep-sea minerals from bioactive whale placenta extract and unpasteurized elk milk straight from the udder. Never heated, never compromised. Big food and big pharma don't want you to have this. Why? Because it works. My VO2 max has never been higher, and I now have a permanent erection. I'm serious. I feel unstoppable. My testosterone levels are off the charts. My red blood cell count. I had a doctor beg me to slow down, but I won't, because marine vitality is fueling me at the cellular level. My relaxes are faster. My grip strength is through the roof, and I swear I can see electromagnetic fields. The mainstream media will try to scare you. They'll say whale placenta isn't meant for human consumption, or raw elk milk can carry pathogens. Yeah, well, so does tap water. Try Marine Vitality today and get 10% off your first promo code order with the promo code Whale Semen. That's Whale Semen for 10% off. Stop letting the government decide what goes in your body, just what you can do with your body. That's okay. Take control with Marine Vitality.
Oh, I'm still beating myself up about the Golden Girls. Thank you for being a friend song reference. I should have had that.
You know what, Carl? Thank you for being a friend.
Thank you. And thank you for listening to Backwards Beat Podcast. We're so happy to have you here. For those who might just be joining us or forgot where they were, we are halfway through looking at Heart Like a Wheel by Linda Ronstadt, her 1974 release, which is album number 490 on Rolling Stone's Top 500 Albums of All Time list.
So I have a question for you.
Sir.
When will I be loved?
Never. You are loved. You're very loved by your family, wife, and I. Song number 6, When Will I Be Loved, was very loved. It's actually the second most listened to song on Spotify on this album at 51.5 million listens.
Yeah, well, rightfully so. This song, which originally was written by Phil Everly of the Everly Brothers and performed by the Everly Brothers. Already a banger before she got to it. And if you think about everything we talked about, you have You're No Good, which is a bit of a banger.
Yep.
Everything else is pretty mellow.
Man, you nailed exactly what I was going to say.
So tell me what happens here, because this is song 1, side 2.
Indeed, and weighing in at 2 minutes and 4 seconds, you would never believe it.
Yeah.
But we get this burst of energy at the second half of the album.
Yeah.
And for those who've listened to the previous episodes that we've done, we're big about album energy.
Yeah.
Songs 2, 3, 4, and 5 were all just slower.
Yep.
For better or for worse, right? And then all of a sudden we roll into a boogie woogie, a shuffle.
Yeah.
And it's got some syncopation. Mm-hmm. It's got big old harmonies and smoking instruments. Really fun listen right here. And definitely kind of like the pick-me-up that you need in the center of an album.
Yeah, and you mentioned the shuffle, and I feel like the pocket on this, so good.
It's one of the better performances on this entire album.
Yeah.
It's impressive. Production's great. It's warm and rich of the time.
Yeah, and sometimes singers aren't known for impeccable rhythm,
True.
right? Because they're sometimes busy like augmenting notes and doing rhythms with long vowel sounds.
There's a lot of guys and gals who play in bands behind singers and like chase them.
Yeah.
They kind of have to follow whatever rhythm the singer sets,
Yep.
even in the pro world.
Yeah,
This ain't the case here.
not at all. She is in the pocket with them.
And you have to be with the harmony walls behind, what's going on here.
Yeah. And like she's supporting this like so well. Like she's definitely like singing from the diaphragm, and
It's cool to hear pop rock side of her after several kind of slower and sweet songs.
yeah. And hey, for younger listeners, go check out the Everly Brothers. They slap.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
I mean,
cooking.
yeah.
This, looking at the list of covers here, I think this one really is a true definition, a true picture of what you're getting out of the cover, right?
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
true to form.
Yep. Yeah, I agree. Not a lot else to say, except I have some questions for you about the guitar solo on this.
My ears and eyebrows and whatever hair on my head that's left perked up when I heard this. Though sonically it bugs me. Ask me your question.
So, well, just so you know, one of the guitar players on this we already talked about Andrew Gold,
Okay.
but the guitar solo is a harmonized guitar solo.
It is
Are we trying to pull off Reelin' in the Years?
a little bit from Steely Dan.
Yep. But then what happens? There's like an effect on these guitars that I cannot place.
I have a sneaking suspicion, knowing that Andrew Gold's a multi-instrumentalist.
Mm-hmm.
I think he's doubling a keyboard or a synth.
That's what it feels like to me, but I wanted to know.
And I
whether-
heard a bend wheel at the end.
Okay.
That was perfect. Guitars don't bend like that.
Right. Okay.
Right? Jet fuel doesn't melt pillars. Guitars don't bend like that.
Perfect. I was able to ask you without asking you. Okay. So there's a keyboard in there.
It's freakishly like it's like, and here's you're hearing this like if you stare at keyboard and synth waves specifically enough working in these audio platforms that we work in,
Yep.
you can see like a density, no loss, right? Because the frequency is so fast. You can hear that. Like I can like literally hear how thick this other guitar harmony is. And it's because it's not a guitar harmony. I'm pretty much willing to bet money on it.
Yeah. And the only reason I'm asking is when I look at the liner notes, there's no keyboard mentioned in the liner notes. But as you know, as a producer, sometimes a producer will just go in and like add 500 instruments.
It's the only time you'd hear this keyboardy part in it, right?
Yeah.
Especially of the sound quality.
Mm-hmm.
I think he was ahead of his time. As you already mentioned, he had a pretty great career after this. And I think if you're playing piano that well and you're playing guitar that well, you're allowed to take some creative measure here.
Yeah.
But it certainly sounds like it's being supported by a keyboard to me.
Okay. That helps. I kind of wish that wasn't there because the solo otherwise is pretty decent.
It's distracting. Or if you tamped it down minus
keyboard?
10. Yeah, the keyboard specifically. Yeah. So you're like, ooh, cool harmony, but it wasn't so forward. It was just a little out there. Who knows? Maybe that was considered avant-garde for the time and they wanted to showcase that.
Or maybe they're like, well, this is too much Reelin' in the Ears or too much Leonard Skinner or whatever because it's a harmonized guitar solo.
Yep.
Let's do something. Yeah.
It doesn't do enough to take away from the song for me to make it a top 3 on the
song crushes.
Yeah, it's an awesome song. Yeah. I will listen to it again and again. All right. Coming off song 6 into song 7. Another heavy hitter on here, weighing in at 11 million listens. We have Willin'.
This is a beautiful song.
It is indeed.
So this song is written by Lowell George.
Lowell George.
So,
Little Feat.
Little Feat, yes.
Yeah.
Little
Great
Feat.
band. My father-in-law's favorite band.
Yeah. Frank Zappa.
Man, those guys can play.
Yeah. Yeah. I was wondering if you picked that up.
So I think I told you earlier when you told me before this session, this is all covers. And I went, no, I didn't know that all, but I know a cover.
Mm-hmm.
That was the one that actually smacked me. It was till song 7 here. I was like, I've covered this song.
Yeah. So talk to me about it.
I mean, so Little Feat put this out in 1970. And there's rumors floating around the wonderful interwebs that Miss Ronstadt and Lowell George actually had something romantic going on.
I heard something like that too.
And that it was, him who said, let's do this one on your album. She's one of multiple people to cover this tune.
Yeah.
It's been covered by quite a few people, up to Mandy Moore.
Yeah.
So, very well-known song in like the hippie jam circuit. That's how I got into it.
But her take doesn't feel hippie jam to me.
Not at all. I think the song was penned early enough at this point, or it was still in its, I wouldn't say infant years, but its adolescent years, where you could take it for multiple interpretations, and you weren't stuck on someone's iconic version quite yet.
Yeah.
And so I think she did a beautiful job with it. The phrasing is unreal. The harmonies are fantastic. The space that they give, to the big three words, is respectful.
Yeah. I really like this. I think this is beautiful. I that's really all I can say. Like,
You know what it reminds me of?
Yep.
A hymn.
Mm-hmm.
H-Y.
Yeah.
It just has like a very like meditative and focused approach.
Mm-hmm.
I think that it has some odd meter in this tune, no?
It does. It has some 2/4 meter in this song.
So, common American time signature or meter, we like to put 4. We love symmetry. We love to put 4 beats into songs.
Yep.
1, 2, 3, 4 as we count through them. This tune moves into 2 more than once.
It does. So what that really means, right? If we're talking about meter, we talk about groupings of 4. Like when you're clapping along, most of the time, if you have some sense of rhythm, you're clapping your hands on beats 2 and 4. There are plenty of people who don't understand that. What that really means is you have a pulse and you'll feel a phrase that comes in. This song, mostly in 4/4, has elements of 2/4 in it. And if you want to know what that really sounds like the kind of the weirdest version, we talked about this briefly last night actually, is if you ever listen to the song The 12 Days of Christmas.
Oh, yeah.
That is a very complicated song by meter, right? So the beginning of it, the on the first day of Christmas, my true love came to me, that's 4/4. And most of it is in there. But then once you start listing the things that you received, all of those are in 3. 3 French hens, 2 turtle doves, and a partridge in a pear tree. That becomes the 4/4. So that's how they're switching back and forth.
I like you, but we both start snapping.
Yeah. We're like jazz cats, but yeah. So anyway, that's when we're saying 3/4, basically we're saying phrases are in groups of 3. And that's what the pulse is looking like.
Now, the effect of this upon the listener, I think it gives you pause. It takes you out of something that feels like your own heartbeat for a second.
Yep.
And what it'll magnify a phrase or a moment inside of a song. That's why people use this musical tool.
Yeah, it's used a lot in like progressive rock. You're going to hear multimeter stuff all the time, but
they do it for fun.
Yeah, but sometimes you just use it to extend a phrase. And there's a song by Pink called "Walk Me Home." You know that song?
I don't know that I do.
It's a beautiful song. And that song bounces between 3/4, 2/4, 6/4. Like it's all over the map. But when Pink does it, she has like a bass drum that's just going like boom, boom, boom. So you don't really notice it as much.
The bass drum is constant because you think about numbers, you could count them 1, 1, 1, 1, right?
Right. But it like I've literally gone through and like conducted this while listening to it. Now there's a band that covers "Walk Me Home" by Pink. A band called Pomplamoose.
Ah, yes.
So Pomplamoose covers this song, and when they do it, they have a drummer who's playing, and he's hitting. He has like a hi-hat or a cymbal that's going, and you'll be able to tell because he's hitting on beats 2 and 4. He's trying to clap on 2 and 4, except that when he can't. So you hear a pause in his clapping. So if you want to hear what mixed meter sounds like, I recommend listening to "Walk Me Home." Pomplamoose's version is on YouTube. Beautiful song, beautiful version, beautiful harmonies. And I should have looked into. I thought about this before, but forgot to write it down. There's another vocal group that's singing with them, singing these beautiful harmonies.
They
along
have
with it.
access to freakishly good players.
So good. Check out Pomplamoose, Walk Me Home. That is definitely a mixed meter song. I mean, we should probably do a YouTube short and just like watch me conduct this song.
I would love that.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Jack, Natalie, if you're listening to this, come be guests. We'd love you.
Yeah.
Um,
Willin rocks.
yeah, great tune. You should listen to every edition of it, but definitely check this one out. I loved it. The Ocho, song number 8. I Can't Help It, in parentheses, if I'm still in love with you.
Originally written and performed by Hank Williams.
Man, and it feels like it.
It sure does. This is a beautiful song. When I say that I was surrounded by country, it was this style of country music that I heard so much. So this song feels like a hug to me. I don't have a lot to say on this one. I mean, this is just a very pretty song. This is featuring Danny Pendleton on the pedal steel guitar.
Mm-hmm.
We already talked about one pedal steel thing, but Danny Pendleton also played pedal steel guitar on the song Afternoon Delight.
Skyrockets.
Yep. Yep. So Afternoon Delight by Starland Vocal Band. They're like a one-hit wonder. And what was a movie that
They were Anchorman.
Anchorman, right?
I believe Ron Burgundy and crew
Yes.
do a nice little Afternoon Delight cameo, and I'm pretty sure that's one of the reasons it popped off, at least for modern listeners. It's the only reason I'd ever heard it.
So when I was in like 3rd or 4th grade, one of the things I used to do in elementary school when it was raining and we would have indoor recess is I would bring in my records.
Yeah.
Right. And when I was in 3rd grade, I was probably the only 3rd grader who had Back in Black by AC/DC.
Sick.
And so one of my good friends at the time, this person by the name of Richard Shippey, and he came in. We're buddies, and I bring in, I think it was Back in Black. It could have been a few years later. It could have been Quiet Riot or something like that. And I play that, and he comes in with Afternoon Delight. which
Oh, poor Shippy.
right now,
What a legend.
yeah, I like kudos to him, or actually
Shippy's mom.
yes. So actually, to be fair, kudos to her
Yes.
at this point. But
Thanks, Miss Shippy.
yes. So yes. But anyway, he brings that song in, and everyone's like rocking to what I bring in, and then they bring in Afternoon Delight, which definitely from like I think AC/DC like vibe is not the same vibe.
No.
But Afternoon Delight is a great song. And that's not what we're talking about. We're talking about I Can't Help It If I'm Still in Love with You. But that digression, when I found out that Danny Pendleton played on Afternoon Delight, it brought me back to Indoor Recess.
I love that.
Yeah.
I love that. Yeah. Oh, now I got to get my kids some records. I got plenty of vinyl to give them.
Yeah.
Beautiful
song.
Oh yeah, indeed. Yeah, this is straight up country banger.
Yep.
Please listen to this tune. It's well liked on the album too. If you look at the stats, it falls at number 5 most listened to.
Yeah, I didn't look on Spotify to Hank Williams, performance numbers on this song, but it's probably
It's up there.
yeah.
He's respected.
Yeah.
All right, song number 9, Keep Me From Blowing Away.
Speaking of 3/4,
Yeah.
this whole song is in 3/4.
And man, it's such a nice little waltz. You really don't feel the weight of a time signature that we're not really used to. You don't hear 3/4 in modern music unless it's used as a phrasing tool or kind of like to show you can.
Yeah.
It's hard to write in.
Yeah, if you, I mean, other than Happy Birthday, if you don't know a song that's in 3/4, you might know Can I Have This Dance by Anne Murray,
Mm-hmm.
right? That's, so it's a waltz,
Yeah.
essentially, and you would box step to this if you were dancing to it back in the day.
If you made it past 2 or 3 years in piano lessons as a kid, you know what we're talking about.
Yeah.
Otherwise, don't worry.
Yeah, actually, the national anthem's in 3/4.
There we go.
Yep.
But this song does it pretty seamlessly.
Yeah, it's just all I can say is a beautiful song. I don't have a lot of notes on this one, but
I feel the same way. The album, you're like, all right, are we going to have kind of like a firework ending? No, we're having like a glass of wine and turn down the lights type of ending.
Yeah. I've listened to this song on repeat. I wish I had more notes, but I really don't. But
Yeah, I agree.
Beautiful song.
I think the word I had it was tender.
Yeah.
Is the highlighted word I have in my song notes.
Yep.
That brings us to the anchor. Song number 10. You Can Close Your Eyes.
Written by this little known artist called James Taylor.
Ah, yes.
Yeah.
I saw him this past year with my mother.
That's right.
In 2024, I took her in the fall. Man, he was old. He got on stage and he was like, we were like, oh God. And after about 2 songs, he like threw his stool back and like took off his overcoat. And we were like, all right, James, get it. And then he had an absolutely bitchin' show.
He is, to be fair, 76 years old.
And he's kicked heroin like 75 times.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, James is the man.
He is. And this is, again, a really nice song. This song sort of dips into some mixed meter as well. And I think you said it perfectly when I mentioned it to you before the episode, which is, why do you think this is mixed meter? Do you think it's because James Taylor's trying to be, Rush or trying to be King Crimson or anything like that?
No, it's because James Taylor cares more about saying the message on his tongue. And if it takes more than 4 beats to say it, he gonna say it.
Yeah.
And the band and the music will follow.
Yep.
And I think that that's such a fun and like, I don't know, esoteric part of his package, his kit,
Yeah.
He has such a sound, and it's like this like laid back delivery, a very specific acoustic guitar style, and this great way of phrasing what his message, and all of these factors make their way into this song. And Linda does such a fantastic job. I mean, it's hard. You're putting on big shoes to sit behind Mr. Taylor.
Yeah.
And she crushes this vocally.
But this album, we didn't mention this, was produced by Peter Asher, who was also a producer for James Taylor.
I did not know that.
Yep. He actually kind of credited for like discovering James Taylor and starting his career. He did, Neil Diamond, Diana Ross, this other person that we might have talked about, Bonnie Raitt.
Bonnie Raitt, yeah. I'm familiar with his work, but I had no idea this was his fingerprint.
Yeah. And so there might have been that connection, how she ended up doing this song. I'm not sure.
Beautifully incestuous.
Yeah. It is.
Just the whole, the talent pool you're talking about in this artist community. All these names, I mean, this is it. I mean, so much great songwriting. I think that's at the core of it. At the end of the day, everything that we've mentioned today, when you look at these musicians, a common factor is it's a ton of really good songwriters. And the irony of today is that we're talking about someone who didn't write any of it, but she's been tasked to perform, and there's a respect there.
Yeah. And so that's the thing. One could say, of course, this album was a big deal because it's filled with hits out of the gate.
Sure.
But this wouldn't be as big of a deal if she couldn't deliver and she crushes it, to your point.
Imagine all the ego sitting on these songs too. It's not like these people are thrilled to give this song away to anybody or let them cover it, right? This is like, don't put mud on my name type stuff. She's that talent. She's that good that you're stoked if she, even opens her mouth to one of your tunes.
Right.
I'm convinced.
Yeah. Yeah. I forgot to mention this before, but there's there's plenty of other well-known people on here, but I forgot to mention Emmylou Harris.
Oh yeah.
She sings on song number 8, which is the Hank Williams song. But I forgot to mention Emmylou Harris, who
saw her live at Strathmore. Fantastic.
Yeah.
God. It goes further towards the talent pool.
Right. We like I said, we could go for 2 hours just name dropping the people who played on this. And I look at that as the respect that she had earned already, right? This is her 5th album, but this is the one that really set her apart. And she had built this credibility and, I believe, likability. Everything I'd ever seen of her, definitely very likable, seemed very charming. And
you've been listening to so much of her catalog outside of this now, sparked by this album.
Yeah.
I'd say that alone speaks towards, the ultimate question. Daniel, would you hit it?
Yes.
Me too. I think this album absolutely deserves its place, if not a few ranks later in this list. Not later, earlier. Like
higher.
Or
I guess lower.
Maybe should have gotten better marks than it did.
Yes.
This is from a guy who knew nothing about this album, still knows generally little. What a great listen. I'll keep this on. I'll buy the vinyl. I'll spin this.
100%. And I'm trying to think like how much of this has to do with the nostalgia of hearing her growing up.
None for me.
Right. And I don't think it is. I think it was, to me, this was a reawakening of something that I forgot was asleep.
I hear breadth and variety of influence throughout the album. I hear incredible musicianship, professional, mature, just absolutely craftsman tone out of her performances. The only knock that I could even, give this would be I don't necessarily love the title track, and I don't necessarily love the track order. The album itself, I'd love just to play with a remix of kind of where everything sits in it, and maybe make a mix change or two. And otherwise, it's pretty gold, guys. It's awesome.
Yeah, we'll probably say what you just said about
90% of the albums,
or 75% of the albums made in the 70s, right?
Yeah, to be
fair,
everybody's got their opinion.
Yeah, but this is I'll definitely hit this album.
Yeah, always enjoyable spending some time with you, my friend.
Absolutely,
we've really enjoyed too the engagement we've been getting since we've released our podcasts. As of yesterday, we have 2 on the interwebs, and we've been getting some feedback from our friends, and really enjoyed staring at the statistics and seeing where people are listening from. So if you would like to engage with us, tell us your thoughts. We'd love to hear from you. You can catch us on our email,
backwardsbeatspodcast@gmail.com,
or find us on our website and check out what we're getting up to at
Backwards Beats on most platforms.
That's right. As always, we will be joining you next week. What do we got coming up?
So next week is the album Back to Mono by Phil Spector and various artists. This is a double album. We'll have to figure this one out.
Various artists, so compilation?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, we were just talking about these earlier. We may have to cheap our way through this one, Daniel.
That's right, my friend.
Well, I look forward to it. We'll catch you guys next week.
That was a show about the album Heart Like a Wheel by Linda Ronstadt. Album's great, and we just learned that she sings jazz in Spanish.
Backwards Beats Podcast is a Tunawood production recorded live at Thought Shack Studios in Halethorpe, Maryland.
If you enjoyed the show, make sure to subscribe and leave us a review on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts.
You can find us at Backwards Beats Podcast on most platforms.
Share the love, and we'll see you next week for another deep dive into the next album on Rolling Stone Magazine's Top 500 list. Until then, salt your melons.